What is up? I am back. I told y'all I was gonna keep doing this, especially with um honestly I don't have a space to really talk about it, so I was just gonna do these um because I don't know. I feel like honestly the reason why I'm doing these is because I feel like a lot of the talking about a lot of this stuff is so above where people are really at. And I think that because everything is positioned as like us versus them consistently, that um which is one of the things I'll talk about. But like honestly, like the everyday American, to be quite honest, if we were to take away the manipulation of party politics and essentially oligarchs and wealthy who want to control the American population purely for their own financial gain, um if we were to take away a lot of that and get back to communal and local issues that are truly impacting, not Fox News or CNN or MSNBC telling us what the issue is, making issues out of very small stories and making it as if it's a national epidemic, purely for their ratings, purely for advertising dollars, and purely for their corporate interests, I think the American people would be so much farther ahead as a whole. And once we get past the idea of, oh, you know, we need to unify, we do need to unify, but not in how they're talking about it. Unification is, can happen with compromise, and honestly, for us to really unify, we would actually have to tear down what is the system that's built upon white supremacy. And I know people don't want to hear that, but at the end of the day, especially, and this is a very hard pill for a lot of people to swallow, because a lot of white people don't think that like white supremacy has a negative effect on them. I'm not saying all, but I'm saying there's white people who are like, oh, it doesn't, like, even people who think they're benefiting from it doesn't realize the effect that it's having on you. Like they don't, and what I mean by that is like they don't understand that it's impacting them too, like in a very negative way. And so, like, it's one of those things where we would have to completely dismantle and get rid of white supremacy, which these corporate people that I was just talking about don't want to do. They do not want that to happen. So it's one of those things where I'm trying to talk around issues with nuance because that's not happening. And the reason why I can do that is because I don't make money from this shit. I am purely doing this. Like honestly, there's nothing for me to gain from this. But honestly, I'm trying to see if there's like-minded people, like who are kind of tired of it. And when I mean tired of it is that tired of the, you know, the diminishing of education, of the diminishing of like actually knowing things instead of just feeling things. Because that's what has happened, is that once again, we are manipulated by emotion. And so um and that's what marketing is really. It's really, sometimes you'll apply to logic, and sometimes a majority of the time you apply it to emotion, because people will react faster based on something that feels emotional than something that they have to process and think through. And so there's a couple of things. The first thing that I titled this is I told you so, as like the um American, and how that's tied to like the American ego. I think that the fallout from this election, what I'm seeing a lot of is that there's this conversation around, oh well, leopards are going to eat their face, and you know, uh, well, you voted for it, so now it's your issue, it's your fault. It's, like I can just sit back and it's like, okay, regardless of being I told you so, and maybe you are right. Yes, okay, that's a possibility. However, the impact is going to hit everybody. Just because just because you feel like I could voted for the correct person doesn't mean that it's not going to hit you. And for the people that may have voted for Trump and are like, oh, I feel like I voted for the right person. I told you so. I told you. It's like the impact the impact of that is very interesting. And this is what I mean by the ego. Because now it's I told you so. See, like you see what's gonna happen with tariffs. Well, and then on the other side it's like, or immigration, you see Latino voters, what y'all did, and all of this. And it's like the same tools that are oppressing and has them in a chokehold, they don't even know that it's in a chokehold. So like this is the teacher in me. Like a lot of people, and I've taught, like I remember student teaching in like a rural area, and for a lot of those kids, I was like their first black teacher, probably one of the few black people that they encountered, to be quite honest. And I remember a lot of them realizing like, oh, this is okay. It was one of those things where they realize like I could see some of them realize like, oh, what I've been taught is not at all what has been, you know, um, propagated to me. Like, and so like it's one of those things where that I told you so and you suck and you're dumb and all of that shit. Like I know that I get it. I get wanting to be like you because I've done that. But at the end of the day, number one, it's not going to change because for a lot of them, they feel like, well, I'm choosing the best option. I'm doing what's best for me. I'm doing what's best for, and it's like that's all self-centered and ego, and the wanting to gloat when this all of this comes to fruition about like, I told you so. At least I'm right on both sides, and I'm not trying to both sides it because this is I am trying to get out of of that. I'm trying to say that as a populace, everybody is gaming us. Like whether like that's the thing is that politics is a game. Like these people, this is a game for them. Like politicians fully don't understand, especially at the presidential level, the games they don't they don't not it's not that they understand, they understand it really well because that's how they're able to manipulate, but they they don't care. Like that's the point of the matter is that like they don't care. So when we have this idea, this ego, this part of us that wants to be like, I'm right, and look at how right I am, and look at the end of the day, it doesn't matter because it's affecting us all. It is going to have a huge impact on all of us. Everyone who is worried about the economy is going to have a huge impact. It's this the results of this election are significant, especially at the federal level, for what is coming down the pipeline to everyday people, regardless of who you voted for. And so, like, we need to start there. We have to get over the individualism that we pretend to exist in the United States that does not exist. It does the individualism that we're talking about really doesn't exist. The exceptional individual is not. That's once again that's American ego. At most Americans are average ass people. The American exceptionalism is lost. That's ego. this is what I'm saying. Like the mindset of Americans, we have to change the mindset. And that starts with like community. And that's one of the biggest things to break down the ego of the American. We have to get back to community and community politics that actually impact us. So like one of the things that I've that and goes along with this is the fact that we're kind of developing into a nation that's priming itself for severe civil unrest. And regardless, the wealthy at the top don't it's not going to impact them. Once again, the American population is getting okey doked. Like for real. And I hate to say it like this, but as far as like the voting groups go, and culturally, I'm born here, my parents born here, I am Black American. My parents grew up remembering integration. They remembered when they were finally in schools with white kids. They grew up in racist ass Mississippi. And, you know, the issues that, like, you can, I wish I could articulate this better, but essentially, when you have a history in this country as a Black person, understanding how they played the game, because the history that we're taught by our grandparents, our parents, our aunts, our uncles, and because America's so young, that we are so close to America's original major sins. Like America's such a young nation that a lot of that is still tethered and weaved throughout the fabric of the United States, and has been indoctrinated into not only um, middle class, working class whites, but incoming immigrants, uh, you know, uh, uh, groups that were marginalized at one point being usurped into this white supremacy framework, not realizing that it has created in that white supremacy framework, there is this stereotype or a framework for like the model American, and then that individual American exceptionalism. But they don't. But it's not through merit. It's not created through merit. It's not about like skills or anything like that, or intelligence or anything like that. It's about certain wealthy white folks maintaining that power, that privilege. And that's the reason why when once again, when we talk about that I told you so in the American ego going back to like I'm the right one. Ha ha, you're wrong. It's like, no, you're doing exactly what the top wants you to do. They want this to stay divisive. They want us to stay divided. Their narratives that they have pushed, they want it to be that way. And so we have to fight against our ego of thinking that number one, I told you so is enough. That's what I'm getting at. I told you so is not enough. I voted is not enough. These people are in local communities talking about issues that have nothing to do with their community, because the higher ups, the wealthiest, the federal people that want control have told them, here's the issues in your community. Some of that shit has nothing to do with their community. Oh, I don't want my kids change it to a trans person. Bro, where is that? Like, my question is, isn't that a conversation you should be having with your kid in your house? Like, what does that have to do with the community outside trying to maybe, have better education? Like, that's the thing is like, there's a lot of disconnect that's happening between, and once again, it's about ego. Like, you're trying to prove something that doesn't exist or it's not impacting you in within your realm of your life. There are so many people that voted on stuff that like, oh, I'm against abortion, don't get an abortion. It's really that simple. Oh, I'm about family values. Then be about your family, be about your community. What does that have to do with you impending something on someone else just because you feel that you're right? That's ego. That is ego when you think that you usurp everybody else. That's ego. That's ego, and that's selfish. And the other thing that we have to get to with that is that this quote unquote win, if you voted for Trump, if you feel like this was a win, my biggest thing is understand that what did you win? Did you just win a pat in the back for do you get what I'm saying? Like, did you just win a pat in the back and be like, "Ha, I showed you," or did you think like, "Oh, because that's how," and I'm not trying to like. I'm sure there are people that really thought that or really think that like, "Oh, he's gonna fix the economy or whatever." I'm gonna tell you once again, that's just propaganda and feeding honestly into your ego. The idea that, oh, I'm gonna have more money. I'm gonna have more. Like for what? Like it's yeah, dude. We are so. I'm trying to be like. I'm trying not to use certain words, but like we're fucked. We're fucked because this isn't just about like yeah. It's dude, y'all. It's too much. It's too much that's happening psychologically. Like if you step back and look at how people talk about things and what they're talking about, I consistently have to ask myself, what does that have? Like, how does that, like, when people talk about the economy, I, I can't afford anything. Bro, you're driving a $70,000 car. Like, like it's some of the things that people like are concerned with. I'm like, are you concerned about it or are they telling you you're concerned about it? Do you really get it? Is it really that bad or are they telling you it's that bad? Do you really feel that way or are they telling you how to feel? And if they keep telling you how to feel and telling, maybe you should stop. And this is regardless of anybody. Ask why. Why do they want me to feel that way? For real. So, like, yeah, our American ego is out of control, man. We're out of control. We're out of control. Um, the other thing, I got more stuff I'm trying to talk about. That I could have did better with that topic, to be quite honest. But it's just the Americans are just so incredibly, regardless, they're just so self-centered and think that everything is about them, and it's not. Like, and there are issues that are happening for people and happening to people severely, like severely, rights being threatened, rights that have been taken away. Um, but that's also the American public thinking that it wouldn't happen. Oh, they're not going to do that. They're not going to take that. They can't do it. That's American ego to think that like you're above fascism. That Americans think they're above fascism and authoritarianism. Like that's the kicker. That's what I'm trying to get to. Americans don't think it can happen to them because we think that we're better than anybody. And that has bled into the communal spaces where that's exactly how people walk through it. I'm smarter than you. I'm more moral than you. I know better than you. I know, and it's like, or maybe you don't. Like, there is ha how do we get to a point where everybody thinks that they're right all the time? Everybody. Like, that's not even possible. That's not even possible, you know? So, yeah, it's just it's we gotta do better. The other thing that which leads me into this, when you lead with your ego, you'll land in hypocrisy. You're gonna any it never fails because you're doing something when you lead with ego, you're doing something that is so reactionary that and it's constant reactionary that it doesn't ever give you the opportunity to really stop and think things through. And so when you don't stop and think things through and you have to go back and be like, oh, I didn't mean it like that. That's how you land at hypocrisy. And that's the next topic. That's the next topic. And the hypocrisy is wild. The hypocrisy is incredibly wild. And I can break this one, I'm on nail. I know that for a fact. One, this goes out to all right, let me preface it by saying this. I think hold up, so I don't mess up facts. Boom. Sorry. This is so annoying. Like, I think there's probably about like I hate Yahoo. Yahoo's terrible. Keeps anyways, I think there's about like of the voting population, I think there's about like a voting age about over I want to almost 300 million for the voting. A voting age. eh, We got a third of the nation to vote, and then we got 20% of the nation to vote for Trump, essentially. 20, wait, hold up. Yeah, yeah, like 20, like a little under, like around like 20% of the nation voted for Trump. That's a lot of people, but it's not a lot of people. Like, so let's start there. Like, that's a lot of people, but that's not all of the people. Like, that's not all of the people. So there's that. So one, our president should be the president of all and for all people. But two, we know that that's not how the 40, 47 and 45 how they react. That's not because once again, ego makes you reactionary and it makes you lead with emotions. You don't use thinking. You use your emotions. The people under him who are more conniving, like Stephen Miller's and those part of the Heritage Foundation and things like that, they use conniving logic to get what they want, and they don't care about feelings at all. So like you know, that's their thing. They don't care about feelings at all. They care about their pockets and about power. So we have to preface it what I'm about to say about this hypocrisy issue under that. But what I was gonna say is that for those that did vote for Trump, and I'm gonna keep it real, there for all of those loud people who were at rallies, there's a whole swath of people who quietly voted for Trump. And those quiet voters who voted for Trump are the people who, like, for instance, And now I'll tell you this. I'll go into it. And the reason why I'm bringing this up, they quietly voted for Trump. This is how I know people withheld talking about it and we're going to vote for him. Two things. The day of the and this is how I know. The day of the election, I was driving to work, right? People had put up Trump signs the night before the election. I drive this road to work every day, and never seen these Trump signs. And then the morning of the election, their Trump signs were up. And I was like, that's interesting. That's interesting that you waited until the day of. Um, and then going on social media and then seeing people being like, voted for Trump, yeah, like all of that type of stuff, like getting the businessman out of here, like getting the businessman in there, getting this bitch out of there, da 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 da. And I was like, oh, you've been quiet during this campaign cycle, but the day that you voted, you let it be known. And a lot of them are Pikachu face because they're like, wait a minute, why are y'all all of a sudden mad at me? And it was like, here's a couple of things that's happening. Because like a lot of people feel like, hey, if you're voting for Trump, that says something about your character. Because let's keep it real, his policy is not really existent. And anybody who wants to say that, oh, he has a plan, he has a policy, dude, I read through it. That's not deconstructing and tearing down something is not policy. Policy is solution. Um, and he has none. Like, if we keeping it a bean, he has none. Um, and I mean, people can argue about that, but I mean, he, bro, I can't even really tell you, like, there is no hard, like, I can tell you policies that were clearly laid out, which we're about to get into this hypocrisy by Kamala Harris, and and her team. Like, we know that. I'm not here to like convince you of shit. There's nothing to convince you of at this point. But what I am saying is that the hypocrisy comes in when those people who quietly didn't say anything but then said something, and then people were basing the fact that like there's no way people are voting on this dude because of his character. And then basically all y'all shy Trump voters, y'all quiet Trump voters said we don't care about character. Like that's that, and I'm not saying that you necessarily, because some of y'all don't get it. Like, in this sense, that like there was a time when we had politicians, I have to preface it like this, but we we there was a time where we had politicians, and it was like they would go out and meet the people, and they would kiss the babies and meet and shake hands and really like um and really do like genuine town halls and doing and all of those those things that are now essentially in this day and age are antiquated, right? To some, to some. And um and and so it came as a surprise for a lot. And what I mean is that that interaction allowed people to see somebody's character, and character has always been a part of it. Like, if you're trying to say that is not that doesn't matter, it does matter. When George W. Bush was in office, people talked about like, I don't like his policy, but his character, he's a Christian, he's all of this. Now, I'm not saying that aligned either, But I'm just saying that to sit up here and say that the character aspect wasn't a part of it, you can't deny that the character aspect is a part of it. It has always been a part of a politician's um, platform because they're politicians. Like you're this is somebody who has to be charismatic enough to relate to everyday people, right? So like the idea of character. So when you hear about someone whose character, like, you may think you're a good person, like I genuinely have some friends who I'm like, you voted for him, and I know that I presume that I thought character was more important to you, but apparently not. And so like that's why when they come out and be like, well, why aren't you guys unifying? Why are you guys mad? Why are you unfriending? It's like, bro, like he just sat up there and attacked all these people, said things about all these people, and then you want them to be kumbaya with you. That's hypocritical. I'm sorry. You can't sit up there and talk trash about people and then expect them to be like, well, now let's hug. And because you voted for him, you just told them where you think where you put decency, character, all that is low on your priority list in regards to things. And 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 that is very telling to people because and it's very telling that either one, you weren't paying attention to what was really going on, or that honestly you just didn't give a fuck. Like you didn't give a fuck about the people around you, your family, your friends, your all of that. So why should they sit up here and coddle you and make you feel better about your decision to do something against them? Why should they do that? That's hypocritical. And then for the simple, like the fact that there's like people that's like, oh well, cry, all these. It's like, dude, when Trump lost, y'all stormed the Capitol. Y'all couldn't even accept that he lost. I mean, I'm not going to name him. I had somebody tell me, I just felt like things were better under Trump. I'm like, bro, like, did we forget? Did we forget, you guys? And that's where the hip that's my problem with the hypocrisy. Like, you can't have it both ways. You can't be like, fuck you. Why don't you love me? I don't know what's going on. Like, no, you can't act like that after all of that. So that's what surprised me is that Trump supporters who were quiet, like the ones who've been vocal, people knew where they stood. Honestly, I'm gonna keep it real with you. I can actually respect that. If you've been a vocal Trump supporter, you kept it 100 the entire time. You did, you know what I'm saying? Like, I could at least understand that. All the ones that was straight up cowards sat around, saw all this going on, and then voted for him, and then hopped their ass online or in the streets talking about, well, why can't we get along? Why is people unfriending me? Why is it, bro? You just told them what you really think of them. So why would they sit up there and be homies with you? I don't understand why people don't understand that. That's okay. So there's that. There is that. The other hypocrisy is this: is that y'all don't let y'all. I'm gonna keep it real. Y'all do not let politicians. Y'all let certain people, white men, get away with it. And this is what I'm gonna say. Y'all let Biden politic like he liked to politic. Biden has said some reprehensible shit, and you know what? People still voted for him. He has done reprehensible shit. People still voted for him. Bill Clinton, people still voted for him. Trump still voted for him. When it comes to women, you don't get that. Women have to be flawless for y'all to, and even then, y'all would still find something. And this goes for liberals too, man. I saw so much, dog. The moment that it was her, well, why is it her? Why she gotta be the one to do it? Who said she was qualified? I don't even like her. She just and it's like, all right, so y'all was mad at Biden, and they were like, yo, we got to get this shit out of here. Now, Democrats did mess up. Biden should have never ran in the first place. Whatever, we're here now. Just like with Bernie. I'm tired of y'all Bernie bros. Yo, G, let it go. We are here now. We are here now. We're here now. You can't do a whole bunch about a bunch of whataboutisms now. We're here now. Third party voters, we're here now. You can't do a whataboutism. As a matter of fact, let's get to this hypocrisy. The Green Party, who y'all put up, are reprehensible too. You got a lady that's sitting next to Putin, G. Like, all of the hypocrisy that unearthed itself during this is wild. You got to see, I saw white boys who were like, who progressive liberals, progressive leftists, all of that talking about, man, I wish it was Walls that was the head of the ticket. I don't even like Kamala. Why don't you like Kamala? Like, there's a lot of reasons to do it, but like in this instance, if we're talking about that, why it's because honestly, and I'm gonna keep it real. I've worked with so many white dudes, and I'm just keeping it real. A lot of them don't like nobody telling them what the fuck to do. Like, it is really that they think they're beyond reproach a lot of times. It is very hard, and it's not just. I'm sorry, I'm generalizing, but like a lot of times it is very hard for people, even for women. Like, the patriarchy mindset in this society is so strong that it'd be hard for people to like really, really be on the side of understanding where we are at with women. Now, I will say this. This is something that I want to touch on, but I'm gonna actually have to do a different video for it. With all that being said, we do not, even though we want to dismantle patriarchal bullshit because it's hindering men m- just as much as it's hindering women. Like, like it's something that we have to talk about where men and boys are mindset wise in the United States. But that is a whole different thing. And I will say this, that we have to do a better job. Um this isn't about like shitting on men. Like, that's not going to get us anywhere. And there are men that I think are amazing, who are good dudes, who are good guys, who are like doing the thing. And but there is a generation of lost men and boys who don't get it, and they're suffering severely, and their suffering is impacting society tremendously. And we have to stop ignoring how, and this is not like coddle them and be all, no, that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that we have to address that. That's a whole different video. There is a really good book about it, and I can't think of it, but I'll when I do that video, I will. I want to read that book. That's the reason why I'm not. I want to finish reading it. I don't want to talk about it until I finish reading it. Because I started some of it on. Hold on. I started some of it on Audible last night. But but it's just about, like, the little bit that I read was purely just about how, um you know, the feelings and what's happening in our society and why that transpired to what we saw with the young male vote of voting for Trump, um, which we shouldn't be surprised about. Anyways, but regardless of that, that's a whole different topic. But like I said, the hypocrisy was really strong, and I feel like liberals especially would not allow for Kamala to to be a politician. The other thing is that, and this is honestly, this isn't, this is what Republicans, this is the strategy of politics, right? Like how they send out the messaging that, she's for trans, da da da, and she's for. Kamala is not progressive at all, but she has some policies that would have benefited the middle class. But y'all did not talking about that. And I'm not talking about her. I'm talking about the media. I'm talking about all y'all left wing motherfuckers that sat up there and wanted to make it one issue. Oh, it's purely about women's rights. It wasn't just about women's rights. She had plans for women's rights. She had small business. 90% of the businesses in the United States are small business. That's gone. Small businesses, I work in marketing with small businesses. Small businesses are hurting. What the hell do you think a tariff is going to do to them? And if you think that's going to mess up a small business, it's going to impact their bottom line because people ain't going to be buying their stuff no more, G. Like for real, like y'all don't know. Y'all don't know. I have clients that voted for Trump, and I'm like, oh God, like you have no clue what you just did. I have clients that have merch and things that they don't get from here that now they're like, damn. So it's just one of those things where it's like, dude, like it's not, there was info. She did target them in a class. Y'all didn't talk about it. Y'all didn't talk about it. Y'all did not make that shit accessible. The clips that y'all put up there of her had nothing to do about. As a matter of fact, this is what really pissed me off, and this shows you where corporate media is, and a lot of the liberal media is. All you Pac-Mans, you Luke Beasleys, the Vanguard, all that bullshit. Y'all pissed me off more than the Republicans. Y'all really did, because y'all talk about her messaging. Your messaging sucked. Your messaging sucked. Y'all didn't talk about shit. A majority of y'all clips of her were talking about Trump. And then when y'all talked about Trump, y'all condescendingly talked about his supporters. Y'all sat up there and talked about, like, y'all show clips of him fumbling. Y'all show clips of his decline when nobody cared. Y'all dunking on him for clicks. For clicks. Y'all got baited and y'all fell asleep at the wheel yourselves. Y'all talking about this isn't the play. Well, I'm just a messenger. This isn't. I'm not. This is just. I'm just the messenger. I'm just trying to. No, you're talking in an echo chamber, G. You're talking in an echo chamber. Like you're looking for clicks. Go honestly, for real, go look through all of these left YouTube, left independent spaces, look at their headlines, look at what they talk about, and look at what they portrayed, and tell me if they even understood the messaging. The messaging, if they did talk about it, I'm gonna keep it real, some of them did, but it was so buried in their whole ass podcast that you wouldn't even know. You wouldn't even know. You wouldn't even know. And here's the thing, while y'all sitting up there dunking on their asses, their base is tuning in to all of these other podcasts that have been right wing, that have allowed for that. And and here's the thing, it reiterated what the talking points that they wanted them to. Joe Rogan, do you think Joe Rogan talked about the middle class on his podcast? Joe Rogan hasn't worked a real job in his entire life. Joe Rogan was so pussy that he quit his dad's construction job, and went to Hollywood. Became a fucking comedian and actor, bro. He's soft. I don't give a fuck how, like, all of these dudes are soft. They're wealthy white boys that are privileged. Like, what are we talking about here? Like, what are we talking about? Like, like, all right, for instance, Theo Vaughn, not a wealthy dude. I know his story, but like, all of them dudes gave talking points. They reiterated those points to his base. And then for other people to come on to watching your show, and you show the clips, but you don't reinforce the messaging behind what is actually happening with Kamala, but you're just saying, oh, well, Trump sucks. That doesn't help anybody. You backfired. You got your bread, you got your views, you got all of that. But in the end, the bigger thing that you allegedly were trying to do, which I don't believe, I think a lot of y'all are really not about actually grassroots or understanding. You're about getting yours. That's the hypocrisy of y'all. Y'all own that shit. Y'all sat up there and acted as if, oh, they're the messaging. Democrats have no messaging. Well, what the fuck did y'all do? The messengers and the messaging was reiterated through all these other things for Trump, but y'all didn't do that shit. Y'all wanted to make him the focal point. Why? Because we know that he makes good ratings. That's the reason why I'm gonna keep it real with y'all. I'm not putting Trump in no titles or no nothing, because at the end of the day, a lot of it is it does not help. That's marketing for him. You're marketing him. There's no such thing as bad publicity. Remember that? That's the hypocrisy. And now y'all trying to find somebody to blame. Latino voters. Hey, why don't y'all go talk to some white folks that voted for him? All of y'all set y'all asses up here, ran to the coast, all of that shit. And then I don't talk to my family. I don't do, well now Meatball sat up there and voted against her own social security, bro. More jobs are gonna be lost in poor white communities. And I know people are gonna be mad, like, why you keep bringing up like poor whites, rural whites? Because, gee, like that's who that's who we need to change. Like, y'all keep saying go left, go more progressive. We need to change the mindset of America to dismantle what is so ingrained in us. We are so incredibly indoctrinated, dude. We have to deprogram ourselves. All of this is a sham. All of it. All of it. The hypocrisy is real. We sitting up here, so I'm seeing so many who's to blame. America. What the what do you mean who's to blame? America for allowing corporate motherfuckers and greedy motherfuckers to make bread off of us like this. And I'm talking about some of y'all YouTubers. I'm talking about CNN, MSNBC. I'm talking about different corporations that sat up here and played in our face. That's what I'm talking about. We gotta disconnect from the mainframe, because it's we're not we're not gonna make it. We're not gonna make it. Um, and that hypocrisy leads me into the next thing I was talking about, with especially with media. Yo, y'all are not journalists. A lot of y'all are not journalists. You're reactionaries. You're glorified reaction channels. That's all a lot of this is. You're a glorified reaction channel. You're not journalists. You know how I know you're not journalists? Because politicians run to y'all. They don't run from y'all. Y'all don't ask hard hitting questions. It's entertainment to y'all. Like that's the wild part. Why the fuck is and the idea that oh podcasts made a difference. It wasn't podcasts, goof troop Akash. It wasn't no yo fucking podcast, goofies. Y'all so disconnected from real people, y'all don't even know what the fuck is going on in the real world. Y'all really think like it's wild. Y'all really think that that's it. Like y'all think that y'all had no goof troop. Red pill had been already indoctrinating them boys way before it, and it's clearly they got to y'all goofy asses too. These bugs really think that they're like, oh well, that made the difference. No, baby, no, no. That was already there. That was already there. And for those that said Kamala should have gone up for what, that was not changing their mind. That was not going to change their mind. They were not. That's not what it is. It has to be deeper than that. And Joe Rogan, stop saying that Trump should unify and not try to do all this shit. You had the opportunity to ask him about any of that, to really dig deep into any of that for 3 whole fucking boring ass hours of that fucking podcast, G. This isn't journalism, y'all. Journalism, journalism doesn't have pussies and ass kissers. I'm sorry, I can't. It pisses me off, bro. It pisses me off. That's not journalism. That's not. We should not be. Bro. There is. I hang out. I am a comedian. I hang out with comedians. There is not one comedian that I want to. That I want a politician to have a serious conversation that impacts the regular everyday people because they're not going to do it. That's not what you were made for. That's not what a comedian is supposed to be doing. These and what's funny about a lot of these podcasts, man, bro, like they used to be funny. They used to be interesting. They got lost in the sauce. They got lost in the sauce. So no, you and sorry, but no, we don't have journalism anymore. There is no journalism. It's reactions. Y'all are not journalists. Y'all are reaction. Y'all are reaction channels. You're not giving out real information. You're giving out propaganda because it pays and you become part of the system. And because you're making money, you think it's okay. You think your money will save you. That's what the Cubans thought with Batista too. Um, and yeah, that was the last thing about that the messaging issue. The messaging issue, the Democrats had a whole outline, talked about it, and nobody wanted to talk about it. They had like when we gotta we make it. Make it easier, bro. I don't know what gets easier than we'll give you $25,000 to buy your first home. I don't get what, how much we not gonna cut your social security that you paid into. Like, tell me how more simple can you put that? Like, it's not a messaging issue. Is that people don't want to be told that they're wrong. People don't want to actually have to think for 1 second. It's not a messaging issue, you guys. It's a reception issue. It's a deep, once again, this is propaganda, bro. Like it's so inseeped into our brains that like it's so funny that like and what's so funny, Andrew Schultz swear he's the most savviest motherfucker ever. And it's like, bro, like because you have money does not necessarily mean that you're savvy. The like the I'm not even gonna go down that road. Okay, I'm gonna say it. This is a side note. How how did all these manly men vote for Trump when he's the least manly motherfucker I've ever seen in my entire life? He wearing hair plugs, he wearing makeup, and I'm saying this as a person who don't really give a shit. But it's when I say manly, I feel like he goes against everything that men that are like, I'm a man, is like real men, like men that are secure in their masculinity. I have never, I'm, I can't believe that they're falling for that. Like there's nothing macho about Trump. Like he has been punked so many times. Like, if you're on your knees groveling to another dictator like he did with Putin, bro, like, how is that considered strong? Like, all these dudes, like, it's so wild because they'll sit up there and blow each other all day and then be like, I'm a man's man. Like, you've been dick riding another man for years. like, shit, I need to go get you, like a vibrator and a butt plug and like some freaky shit, like the way that they've been dick riding I'm sorry, this is so uncouth to say it like that, but I just had to say that like it's kind of wild how like just boys being boys. Shout out to Ebba and Breach, but like that's what it comes off as. It's like it's very like it's very homoerotic. I'll say that much. Like Nick Fuentes gives me like a lot of them give me like something. Okay, I'm not gonna go there, but it's just it's very interesting that it's like this boys club, but it doesn't give what they think it's giving. It's giving that you're like sheep, like you're like you don't have a backbone, like you don't actually really stand for anything. And the other thing is like the fear mongering worked on all of them. Like all these bugs, like all these comedians talk about cancel culture, and I can say now freedom of speech is secure. Like you've been saying shit this entire time, bro. And freedom of speech never lives under fascist or authoritarian governments, which is what the Republicans want. But okay, like hypocrisy. Like I don't know, bro. Like I don't know. It's kind of wild. It's kind of wild. Um, Yeah, I think that's pretty much it. I touched on everything. I've been going for an hour. I'm about to go work out, but um, a little piece for everybody else. Take care of yourself. Work out. Stock money. Save. Invest in some stuff. Hold up. If you're gonna invest in anything, I would probably invest in the GEO group or core civic right now. That's all I'll say. Thumbs up on tariffs. Um, so stupid. Um, but and I say that because those will, yeah. If you know, you know. If you know anything about stocks, those will probably be the ones that will probably end up yielding a little bit more due to what's impending. Anyways, take care of yourself. Be healthy. Go, do something with yourself that is, productive, and start building back with community. Start going to your local stuff. Get involved with your libraries. Get involved with programs that will support other communities. If you're really invested in it, and I'm talking about regardless of your political affiliation, like really get involved to like, like there's too much insular that's happening, and it ain't gonna help nobody. So like get involved with your communities, and yeah, that's pretty much it. Um, Stay safe, and I'll be probably back again this week with some more shit. Um, and this was just like this was kind of a looser thing. Um, but and I could go like we can go into like statistics. But I think what really needs to happen is a comprehensive on what's actually happening, and like at the regular ass American level. Um, the other, yeah. So that's all. Go work out, eat well, take care of your friends and family. And I'll let y'all later.